I get it. You scroll through a sea of sewing and embroidery machines, each one promising glossy results. But when you finally open the box, you're left wondering if you just bought a fancy paperweight. I've seen the frustration of hobbyists who buy a machine because it looks sleek on a screen, only to discover the learning curve feels like climbing a steep hill without a guide. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And today I'm going to walk through why the Brother SE2000 might be the map you need or why it could be the wrong compass for your project. First off, the SE2000 is positioned as an all-in-one solution for people who want both sewing and embroidery without juggling two separate machines. It ships with 4 hoops, a large 5 by 7-inch embroidery area, and a starter kit that the company calls Ultimate Embroidery. The built-in library includes 193 embroidery designs and 13 lettering fonts, plus 241 sewing stitches and 10 buttonhole styles. On paper, that's a lot, but the real question is, how does that translate to a typical weekend crafter, a small business maker, or a sewing-savvy parent looking for a reliable workhorse? If you're a beginner who's just getting their feet wet with embroidery, the variety of preloaded designs is a real confidence booster. I tried loading a simple floral pattern onto a cotton tote bag, and the machine automatically centered the design in the 5 by 7 hoop. The Embroidery Magic preset, which tries to auto-adjust thread tension and stitch density, saved me a few tweaks that would have otherwise taken a half hour of trial and error. For a newcomer, that means fewer moments of doubt and more time actually seeing a finished piece. For a more experienced maker, the My Custom Stitch function is where the SE2000 starts to feel like a creative lab. You can draw a path on the screen, choose a stitch type, and the machine will translate it into a repeatable pattern. I used it to design a custom monogram for a set of linen napkins. The result was crisp, and the fact that the software saved the design for future use meant I could reproduce the same monogram across a batch without redrawing it each time. That repeatability is a practical win for anyone selling personalized items. Now let's talk about the day-to-day workflow. The machine's LCD screen is a modest 7-inch touch panel that displays both the sewing and embroidery menus side by side. Navigating to a stitch is as simple as a tap, and the preview shows exactly how the pattern will sit on your fabric. The biggest hidden trade-off is that the screen doesn't have a built-in zoom function for embroidery previews. So if you're working with a detailed design, you have to estimate the look at the offered size. It works fine for most projects, but if you're a detail-obsessed designer, you might find the lack of a magnified view a minor irritation. Thread management is another area where the SE2000's real-world performance shines. It uses a standard needle bar that accepts up to 16 colors, which is plenty for complex embroidery. The threading path is clearly labeled on the machine, and the included instructional booklet walks you through the sequence step by step. I found that the tension stays consistent across different fabric weights, from a light cotton blend to a denser denim, meaning you don't have to constantly readjust after every fabric change. For a home hobbyist, that consistency cuts down on wasted thread and the frustration of tangled stitches. On the flip side, the machine's size can be a practical weakness. The SE2000 sits on a fairly large footprint, and the included hoops themselves add a few extra inches to the overall width. If you're working out of a cramped apartment or a small craft room, you'll need a dedicated table or a sturdy stand to accommodate it comfortably. The machine also requires a power outlet nearby, which can limit where you set it up. I'd say if you're limited to a narrow kitchen counter, this model could feel more like a logistical challenge than a creative companion. Another point worth noting is the speed versus noise factor. The embroidery mode reaches about 650 stitches per minute, which is decent for home use, but not on the level of industrial machines. During operation, you'll hear a consistent whirring that some users describe as a bit louder than a household blender. In a shared living space, you might want to schedule larger projects during daylight hours to avoid waking up the household. It's not a defect, just something to keep in mind if you're sensitive to background noise. So, who should consider buying the Brother SE2000? If you're a hobbyist who wants the convenience of a single machine that can handle both sewing basics and embroidery projects without swapping hardware, this is a solid choice. It's especially attractive for parents who want to involve kids in making personalized gifts. Think embroidered pillows, monogram shirts, or simple embroidered patches on backpacks. The inclusion of multiple hoops means you can switch between a small 3x3 hoop for tiny patches and the larger 5x7 hoop for full-scale designs.